Have you ever felt that sharp burning sting when you see someone else catching your partner's attention? Or found yourself plagued with doubts about your own worth, even when your partner has done nothing wrong? Jealousy is an emotion we've all encountered. At some point in our relationships, it creeps in slowly and can leave us feeling small and insecure. Yet what if I told you that jealousy doesn't have to control your life? What if by adopting a few powerful Stoic practices, you could reclaim your inner strength, calm your mind, and build a more trusting, resilient relationship? In my years of studying Stoicism and applying its lessons to my personal life, I've come to understand that jealousy is not a sign of weakness, but rather an opportunity to grow. It's a mirror reflecting our insecurities and fears. If we learn to address these inner truths, we can transform jealousy into a pathway for self-mastery. Today, I'm excited to share with you 10 Stoic secrets that have helped me handle jealousy, along with real-life stories and examples that illustrate these lessons in action. Whether you're struggling with self-doubt or feeling threatened by external attention, these insights will empower you to take control of your emotions and build a stronger foundation of trust and self-respect. So let's dive in and discover how you can harness the power of Stoicism to silence jealousy. Embrace your worth and let your inner light shine so bright that even the darkest doubts fade away. 1. Control your inner world. One of the fundamental teachings of Stoicism is understanding the limits of what we can control. Jealousy often stems from our attempts to control external factors, our partner's behavior, the attention they give to others, or the circumstances that surround our relationship. However, the Stoics remind us that our true power lies in controlling our own thoughts, emotions, and responses. I remember a time early in my career when I was in a relationship filled with uncertainty. Every time I saw my partner laughing with a colleague or receiving compliments from a friend, a surge of jealousy would overwhelm me. I spent countless nights worrying about what I couldn't control, obsessing over every small detail. Then I encountered the Stoic principle: you have power over your mind, not outside events. This simple yet profound idea shifted my focus entirely. I began to practice mindfulness, redirecting my energy inward by meditating on my emotions instead of fixating on external triggers. Over time, I realized that by accepting that I cannot control every aspect of my partner's interactions, I freed myself from the chains of jealousy. Instead, I channeled that energy into cultivating my own well-being, pursuing hobbies, building my career, and reinforcing my sense of self-worth. This shift not only eased my jealousy, but also enriched my relationship by removing the constant tension and insecurity that once loomed over us. Reflect daily. Spend a few moments each day identifying what aspects of your relationship are within your control, your thoughts, responses, and actions. Mindful journaling. Write down your feelings when jealousy strikes and ask yourself, what can I change about my reaction? Focus on self-improvement. Redirect energy from external worries to activities that build your self-esteem and personal growth. 2. Trust yourself. Marcus Aurelius and other Stoic philosophers have long emphasized the importance of trusting in your own worth and abilities. Jealousy often arises from insecurity, a deep-seated belief that you're not enough or that you rely too heavily on external validation for your self-esteem. There was a period in my life when I constantly sought reassurance from my partner. Every time I felt a twinge of jealousy, I doubted my own worth and questioned whether I deserved the love I received. I'd find myself thinking, am I really good enough? Until I realized that this self-doubt was the root of my jealousy. I began to adopt a Stoic mindset of self-trust. I recalled Marcus Aurelius's words about focusing on your own character and integrity. I started setting aside time for self-reflection, affirming my strengths and accomplishments. I invested in my passions and made a conscious effort to celebrate my individuality. Slowly, the need for external validation diminished, and I started to trust in the inherent value I brought to the relationship. Over time, I discovered that when I trusted myself, jealousy lost its grip, and I felt more secure and confident in who I was. Daily affirmations. Write and recite affirmations that reinforce your worth and remind you of your strengths. Celebrate your achievements. Keep a journal of your successes, no matter how small, to build a record of your value. Develop hobbies. Engage in activities that make you feel competent and independent, reinforcing your self-trust. 3. Embrace. Emotional detachment. Emotional detachment is not about being cold or indifferent. It's about recognizing that your emotional well-being shouldn't be entirely dependent on external factors. The Stoics taught that our inner peace should not be dictated by the whims of others. I once found myself in a relationship where my self-worth was tied to my partner's every action. When they paid extra attention to someone else, I would feel an overwhelming sense of inadequacy. The turning point came when I embraced the idea of emotional detachment. I realized that by clinging to the need for constant affirmation, I was giving away my power. I began practicing detachment by reminding myself that my happiness comes from within, not from the approval of others. I started to enjoy the simple act of being present and appreciated the love I had rather than constantly seeking more. This detachment allowed me to love my partner without suffocating our relationship with possessiveness. It also gave me the freedom to be my authentic self, which in turn made our connection more genuine and resilient. Visualize boundaries. Imagine a protective barrier that helps you maintain your emotional center regardless of external fluctuations. Self-soothing techniques. Develop practices like deep breathing or a calming routine to ground yourself when you feel vulnerable. Focus on the present. Engage fully in the moment instead of worrying about what might happen or what others might think. 4. Practice. Self-awareness. Self-awareness is the cornerstone of Stoic practice. By examining our inner world, we can uncover the origins of our emotions, including jealousy, and address them rationally rather than react impulsively. I vividly recall a time when jealousy would overwhelm me without any clear trigger. I was perplexed, wondering why I felt so threatened despite having a loving partner. It was only when I began to practice self-awareness through meditation and reflective journaling that I discovered the real source of my jealousy, a fear of inadequacy stemming from past experiences. Recognizing this allowed me to confront and heal those old wounds. I realized that much of my jealousy was not about my current relationship, but about unresolved issues from my past. This clarity was transformative. By understanding that my feelings were rooted in my own insecurities, I could approach the situation with compassion for myself. I started to work on those areas, seeking professional guidance and engaging in self-improvement activities. With time, I learned to distinguish between rational concerns and the emotional echoes of past pain. This self-awareness not only diminished my jealousy, but also enriched my relationship by allowing me to communicate more openly about my needs. Keep a journal. Record your feelings and thoughts daily. Look for patterns and triggers. Meditate regularly. Spend time in quiet reflection to connect with your inner self and understand your emotional responses. Ask probing questions. When jealousy strikes, ask yourself, what am I really afraid of, or what past experience is influencing my reaction? 5. Cultivate gratitude. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to jealousy. When we focus on the abundance in our lives, we shift our attention away from fear and scarcity. The Stoics believe that recognizing and appreciating what we have can transform our perspective and free us from negative emotions. There was a time when I constantly fixated on what I feared losing in my relationship: a partner's attention, a sense of security, or even the fleeting moments of affection. This focus on lack only deepened my insecurities. I decided to take a radically different approach. I began to cultivate gratitude. Every day I made it a habit to write down 3 things I was grateful for about my partner and our relationship. At first it felt almost forced, but gradually it transformed my outlook. I started to notice the small, often overlooked acts of kindness: a warm smile, a thoughtful gesture, a moment of shared laughter. This practice of gratitude shifted my focus from what was missing to what was abundantly present. It reminded me that I already had so much to cherish, and that the love I shared was real and valuable. In time, my feelings of jealousy subsided, replaced by a profound appreciation for the relationship itself. The more I embraced gratitude, the less I was haunted by the fear of losing something that was already mine to treasure. Gratitude journal. Every morning or night list at least 3 things you appreciate in your relationship. Verbal appreciation. Make it a habit to express gratitude directly to your partner. Simple thank yous can go a long way. Reflect on positive memories. Remind yourself of the good times and the moments when you felt truly loved and valued. 6. Foster open communication. Trust is the cornerstone of any healthy relationship, and open communication is essential to build and maintain that trust. Jealousy often flourishes in silence and uncertainty, so addressing concerns honestly and calmly is a critical step toward overcoming it. I once experienced a period of deep insecurity in a relationship where unspoken assumptions began to fester. I felt disconnected because I was too afraid to voice my concerns, and my partner in turn interpreted my silence as indifference. It wasn't until we sat down and had an honest, non-accusatory conversation that things began to change. I remember the conversation clearly. We talked about our fears, our expectations, and our needs. We listened to each other without judgment, and that simple act of vulnerability bridged a gap that had seemed insurmountable. The dialogue not only dispelled many of my jealous thoughts, but also strengthened the bond between us. It taught me that communication is not about confrontation. It's about creating a safe space where both partners can express themselves freely. When we speak openly, we replace suspicion with understanding and insecurity with mutual trust. Schedule regular check-ins. Set aside time to talk about your feelings and experiences with your partner without distractions. Use I statements. Express your emotions by focusing on your experiences rather than blaming your partner. Practice active listening. Ensure that both you and your partner feel heard and validated during conversations. 7. Let go of rigid expectations. Expectations can often fuel jealousy by setting rigid standards for how things should be. The Stoics remind us that life is unpredictable and that clinging to fixed ideas can lead to disappointment. Learning to let go of these expectations frees us to appreciate the present without the burden of what if. I once struggled with the idea that my partner should always behave in a certain way, always be available, always offer constant reassurance, and never let a moment pass without a loving gesture. This rigid expectation left little room for the natural ebb and flow of a real relationship. One day, after a particularly disappointing week, I decided to challenge this mindset. I consciously let go of the need for perfection and started to embrace the uncertainty inherent in human relationships. Over time, this shift in perspective allowed me to see my partner as a human being with flaws and strengths, rather than as an idealized figure who must always meet my expectations. The relationship became richer and more authentic, and the jealousy that once gnawed at me faded into the background. I learned that by releasing expectations, I could love more freely and appreciate the relationship for what it truly was: a dynamic, evolving connection built on mutual growth and understanding. Reframe your thoughts. When you catch yourself expecting perfection, remind yourself that imperfection is a natural part of life. Focus on the present. Concentrate on enjoying your time together rather than worrying about potential shortcomings. Practice acceptance. Acknowledge that you cannot control every outcome and that uncertainty is an inherent part of all relationships. 8. Accept impermanence. One of the most powerful Stoic principles is the recognition that everything in life is impermanent. This truth applies to relationships, feelings, and even our own emotions. By accepting impermanence, we can reduce the fear of loss that often fuels jealousy. I once found myself overwhelmed by the fear that I might lose the love I cherished. The thought of change, of things not being constant, triggered a deep sense of insecurity. Then I encountered the Stoic idea that impermanence is not a cause for despair, but an invitation to value the present moment. I started to see every moment as fleeting and precious, a gift to be savored rather than taken for granted. This realization transformed my approach to relationships. Instead of clinging desperately to the past or worrying about the future, I learned to appreciate the here and now. I began to cherish each laugh, every shared look, and even the quiet moments of silence that spoke volumes. The acceptance of impermanence allowed me to let go of the obsessive fear of losing something that was always meant to evolve and change. This shift in perspective not only eased my jealousy, but also deepened my connection with my partner by grounding our relationship in the beauty of the present. Mindfulness practices. Engage in mindfulness meditation to ground yourself in the present moment. Reflect on change. Regularly remind yourself that change is natural and that each phase of a relationship has its own beauty. Value the now. Focus on what is happening in the present rather than dwelling on past hurts or future uncertainties. 9. Develop emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is the ability to recover from setbacks and adapt to challenges without losing your equilibrium. The Stoics believe that every emotion, even jealousy, can be a tool for growth if we learn to manage it with wisdom. During one particularly challenging period, I found myself overwhelmed by jealousy that threatened to disrupt my peace. Instead of succumbing to it, I decided to view this painful emotion as an opportunity to strengthen my inner resilience. I immersed myself in practices that bolstered my emotional fortitude. Journaling, seeking guidance from mentors, and engaging in reflective conversations with trusted friends. With time, I learned to observe my jealous thoughts without judgment and to let them pass like clouds in the sky. This practice of emotional resilience transformed jealousy from a paralyzing force into a catalyst for personal growth. One vivid memory that stands out is when I was working on an important project while also dealing with relationship insecurities. The stress was mounting, and jealousy flared up unexpectedly. Instead of reacting impulsively, I took a deep breath, reminded myself of my inner strength, and focused on what I could control. That moment of clarity allowed me to overcome the negative emotion and channel my energy into creative problem-solving. The experience reinforced my belief that with resilience, even the most challenging emotions can be tamed and used as stepping stones toward a stronger, more centered self. Pause and reflect. When jealousy strikes, pause, breathe, and reflect on the underlying cause. Build a support network. Surround yourself with people who inspire and support your emotional growth. Celebrate small victories. Acknowledge each moment when you manage your emotions successfully and use it as motivation to keep building resilience. 10. Trust the process of life. Ultimately, the Stoic philosophy teaches us to trust in the natural unfolding of life. Every experience, even the painful ones like jealousy, serves a purpose in our journey of self-improvement. Trusting the process means accepting that life will bring both joy and challenge, and that each moment is an opportunity to learn and grow. I remember a time when I was consumed by the fear that my relationship might end because of my own insecurities. The constant worry and jealousy felt like a storm that I couldn't escape. One day during a quiet walk in nature, I reflected on the Stoic wisdom that life unfolds exactly as it should. I realized that every emotion, including jealousy, was part of my growth journey. I began to trust that if I stayed true to myself and continued working on my inner strength, the right outcomes would manifest in time. That moment of clarity shifted my perspective dramatically. I stopped trying to force solutions and instead focused on becoming the best version of myself. With patience and trust in the process of life, my relationship evolved naturally. I no longer felt the need to control every aspect of it. Instead, I embraced the ebb and flow of love with an open heart. This trust in life's process not only alleviated my jealousy, but also brought a sense of peace and acceptance that has stayed with me ever since. Embrace uncertainty. Accept that life is full of unpredictability and that each challenge has its own lesson. Practice patience. Remind yourself that growth is a gradual process and that every emotion has its role. Focus on the journey. Celebrate your progress and trust that life will guide you toward the outcomes that serve your highest good. After exploring these 10 Stoic secrets, let's summarize the essential lessons that can help you transform jealousy into a tool for personal empowerment. Control your inner world. Recognize that while you cannot control external events, you have absolute authority over your thoughts and emotions. Direct your energy inward to create inner peace. Trust yourself. Build a foundation of self-worth by affirming your strengths and recognizing your inherent value. Self-trust is the antidote to the insecurities that fuel jealousy. Embrace emotional detachment. Understand that your well-being does not depend on external validation. Detach your happiness from your partner's actions and learn to love freely. Practice self-awareness. Delve into the roots of your jealousy. Recognize the underlying fears and insecurities that cause these emotions and use that insight to respond more wisely. Cultivate gratitude. Shift your focus from what you might lose to the abundance you already have. Gratitude transforms your perspective and diminishes the power of jealousy. Foster open communication. Build trust by talking honestly about your feelings. Express your concerns in a calm, non-accusatory way to foster mutual understanding. Let go of rigid expectations. Release the need for perfection in your relationship. Embrace the natural evolving nature of love and accept your partner as they are. Accept impermanence. Recognize that nothing lasts forever and that every relationship evolves over time. This acceptance helps ease the fear of loss. Develop emotional resilience. Use every challenge, including jealousy, as an opportunity to build your inner strength. With resilience, you learn to let emotions pass without defining you. Trust the process of life. Believe in the natural unfolding of events. Embrace life's journey with patience and faith, knowing that every experience has a purpose in your growth. Jealousy is a universal emotion, one that can shake even the strongest of us. Yet as I've learned through both study and personal experience, it need not be a force that dictates our happiness. By applying these Stoic principles, you can turn jealousy into a mirror that reveals not your inadequacies, but the opportunities for deep personal growth. Reflect on the moments when you felt jealous. What did those feelings teach you about yourself? How can you channel that energy into becoming more resilient, more self-assured, and more grateful for the love you already have? Remember, The goal is not to suppress jealousy, but to understand it, to learn from it, and to let it pass without allowing it to undermine your inner peace. I encourage you to integrate these practices into your daily life. Start each day with a moment of reflection on what you can control. Trust in your unique worth and celebrate your individuality. Practice mindfulness and gratitude, even in the smallest moments. Communicate openly with your loved ones and never be afraid to ask for clarity. Let go of rigid expectations, embracing the beautiful, unpredictable nature of life. Build emotional resilience through patience and self-reflection. And above all, trust that every challenge you face is part of a greater journey. In the end, the Stoic path to handling jealousy is one of a self-mastery, a journey of understanding that your happiness comes from within. When you learn to nurture your inner strength and embrace every moment with acceptance and gratitude, jealousy loses its grip on you. You become free, empowered, and ready to build relationships that are as resilient and authentic as you are. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into Stoic secrets. For handling jealousy, I hope these insights inspire you to reclaim your power and live a life defined not by insecurity, but by unyielding self-respect and inner peace. If you found these insights valuable, I invite you to share your thoughts and personal stories about how you've managed jealousy in your own relationships. What practices have helped you cultivate resilience and trust? Let's continue this conversation and support one another on the journey toward deeper, more authentic connections. In summary, handling jealousy with Stoic wisdom is about recognizing your power over your own mind, trusting in your inherent worth, and embracing the natural, ever-changing flow of life. By doing so, you not only tame jealousy, but also pave the way for a relationship built on mutual respect, trust, and true self-love. Stay stoic, stay strong, and remember, the most powerful love you can ever experience is the one you give yourself.